It's Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Corey and Mason.
Hello and welcome to Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mason Schmidt, here with my best bud, Corey Knudsen, as we get ready to drink beer and talk about movies. Today we'll be discussing what films we've seen lately, what new releases are on the horizon, as well as providing some updates on some physical media releases and some notable developments in the world of movies. But first, Corey, how have you been? And secondly, sadly, what will we be drinking tonight?
I'm not feeling good right now, man.
No.
We, for some reason, chose the worst beverage I've ever had in my life.
Easily the worst thing we've covered.
Yeah. It's called Drippin. It's a fruited sour from Drastic Brewing out of Wadena, Minnesota. It's got blue raspberry, tangerine, and marshmallow fluff. And this shit is dark green.
It's smog.
It is just swamp water. It's
green, opaque. Like I can.
It stinks.
We poured them out in our glasses. If I shake my glass, I can see like particles in this thing.
There's something living inside of my glass.
We've both had 3 Tums each, and we haven't even finished the first can. So that's if that's not a telling sign.
This is terrible. This is just the most awful thing I've ever had. And we have another full can each. So
yeah, I'm gonna put a down payment on the second can. I'm gonna just open that.
Wow.
It's
give a little splash on your computer. Nice.
Oh fuck, my screen's gonna black out right now.
Nice. Yeah, your thing's gonna go haywire over there.
You said before we started recording, this is probably the cure for polio in this can.
This is something. This is not meant to be consumed like at all.
Pouring it and it was green was a shock. It was, oh my god!
The smell before it even hits your lips. Yeah. This is awful. So
I have it in a glass. I want to try it fresh out of the can. Actually.
Yeah, let's see. Let's get your review.
Ooh.
Is it better or worse?
It's intense as fuck out of a can.
Well,
it's concentrated and it's mad. Whatever's in this is mad.
This is the Hulk in a can.
Yeah. No shit, yeah.
So, Drastic Measures Brewing, if you want to sponsor this episode.
Yeah, we hate your fucking beverage.
Yeah, so we're going to be really suffering through. If we, take pauses when we're talking, it's just because we're, processing what's in our body right now. As Mason looks at the xenomorph coming out of the
the bottom of my glass.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's just my stomach doesn't feel good.
No, this is bad.
This is weird. But anyways, we have movies to talk about.
After last week when I was like, all right, I'm gonna start drinking THC seltzers because I'm training for a marathon. I'm gonna cut out alcohol. Later on, I was like, you know what? What if I just save Sundays? That's my drinking days. I'll drink on the podcast and do this and continue doing this. And then I decided to do that, and then we just followed up with this fucking railroad spike right up the ass.
What a return to drinking.
I'm pouring this one just to see.
Yeah, you cruise through that. I'm still halfway through the first one. This is awful.
It looks like someone just blended fucking spinach in water. That's the color. That's what you're getting. It looks like bad, or it looks like an AG1 athletic greens shake, but it tastes like. I was going to say something horrible. It tastes like a kid that may need some extra attention made this beverage with just full reign over a kitchen that just should not be allowed to him. This is so bad.
The Battle of Helm's Deep is going on inside my stomach right now. It is fighting to get out. All my intestines and liver are what is this? What's going on?
I'd rather be, Ebony Maw right now? Than this.
From Infinity War?
Yeah.
You'd rather just be him?
Yeah. He dies, right?
Yeah.
How does he die?
I
also don't remember. However he dies, it's probably better than drinking this shit.
Oh, it's when they're on the ship on Iron Man and Doctor Strange. Spidey are there, and he gets sucked out the thing, doesn't he?
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, I think that's him.
Yeah, that is.
Because he's torturing Doctor Strange, and then he gets...
What a dumb way for him to die.
He's a great character, yeah.
Alright, well, that joke
Anyways.
What do we see?
Anyways, speaking of Marvel-related things, we did just see Captain America Brave New World a couple hours ago, but in preparation for that movie, I decided to do a watch-through of 3 Captain America movies, and it's definitely not the 3 that you're thinking of. It's not the Chris Evans ones. No. I went back in time and watched, first off, the 2 TV movies from 1979. These were TV pilots or like movies that were pilots for a TV show that never came about because these were so dog shit. These are. It stars Reb Brown as Captain America, and he is the most just wooden, lifeless actor that I've seen in a long time. There's no essence of Captain America in these movies. It's just like they heard about the idea of a star-spangled man who has some powers and runs around, and then they just kind of use that. And they're essentially just like 1970s action crime shows with somebody named Captain America in them. They're not good. They're laughably bad, but not even so bad that they're good. Like not even sitting down and watching them and drinking dog shit Drastic measures Drippin. The only like redeeming quality from either of these movies was in Captain America 2: Death Too Soon. Christopher Lee is the main villain of the movie, which I don't know why he chose to join this project, but he had some gravitas to it, so that's exciting. But yeah, these movies are awful. There's no need for anybody to watch them. It was very hard to find these also online. It took me a long time. But
are they each like full length, like 2 hours?
They're like
long?
an hour and a half.
Okay.
So
still,
they feel like the longest movies of all time.
And is it kind of like, I know nothing about these. Is it almost like a back-to-back part 1, part 2 with these? Because they came out both in what, 1979?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it's not like related stories.
It's just, here's another one.
Yeah, here's another pilot for, what could be a show. So yeah, those ones are not good. But I also watched the Captain America from 1990, which I've always heard about just being an awful movie and wanted to check out. And it stars Matt Salinger, who is J.D. Salinger's kid, the writer of The Catcher in the Rye, which I've never read, but
It's a good book.
There you go. There's Mason's review. Good book.
Good book.
Yeah, but it has a pretty good supporting cast in here. Ronnie Cox, Ned Beatty's in it. And this one is a little bit more true to the Captain America character. And, it is goofy, it is silly, the effects are not very good. It's 1990, obviously, like Marvel didn't have it figured out yet what they were doing. But there's also some okay moments in here. There's a lot of darker elements than what I had thought there would be. There's, like, a lot of people that die in this movie, and I didn't expect to see that, so... this one was a little bit more fun for me to watch. This one went by quicker. I think there are things in here that are worth watching, just for like even a historical thing of like how far we've come with Marvel
In comic book movies.
Yeah, and just like seeing how 35 years ago, like what the big one they were putting out was. So that was a fun little trip down memory lane, just to kind of watch these movies because obviously we're both very familiar with the MCU version of Captain America. So I'm like, I've seen those enough. Let me go through history, watch some of these, and I will never watch any of these movies again, but I'm glad to have checked them off my list.
Mm-hmm. The one of these three that I'm most interested in is that 1991, just because that I remember growing up and watching on YouTube just like clips of movies, and I loved the Marvel movies early on, like even before the MCU. Like I loved Blade, I loved the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. And I was like, wow, what if there's a Captain America movie? And then, like, it dawning on me, like, oh, there's a 1991? And then just seeing the way Red Skull looked in that movie, I'm like, you look like a fiery turd. Like, you don't look good.
It's bad.
Yeah. But I've always kind of wanted to see it. I've just never gone out to it. But I know that you and I watched Howard the Duck together, which was a good, just wild trip. And I'm sure that if I have the right amount of liquid courage, I'm sure the 1990 Captain America movie would be a really enjoyable time. Kind of similar to that, like Roger Corman Fantastic Four, in terms of just like the quality of what you're getting. But I'm that's one that I'd be interested in actually like dabbling in and sitting down and watching. But the movie we did watch today is the first MCU movie of 2025, Captain America: Brave New World. I wish it was still New World Order. That is a far better title. Yeah. Directed by Julius Ona, the director of the Cloverfield Paradox, which outside of its marketing campaign for that film, if dropping after the Super Bowl, whatever year it came out, that movie is just nothing to me. And Loose, which I actually heard really good things about. Film obviously is starring Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford taking over as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. You got Danny Ramirez, Giancarlo Esposito, as I've been so eloquently taught how to properly pronounce. And then the film it's Sam Wilson is the new Captain America. He finds himself in the middle of an international incident and must discover the motive behind nefarious global plan to... It's just a lot of intertwining plots. This is the biggest, like... The Marvel Universe is trying to answer a lot of loose ends, kind of tie in a bunch of things. Corey and I both sat down and watched this movie this morning with a couple of our buddies. Corey, I want to get your thoughts on it. What was your expectations like going into this movie? Because for me, I heard a lot of kind of mixed and negative things, but still really excited to see a Captain America movie because that is my favorite trilogy. Where were you at going into Brave New World?
Yeah, and before I get into it too, we're also going to talk spoilers about this movie.
Yeah.
It's still opening weekend, so just wanted to prepare you for that in case you haven't seen the movie. Go out, watch it, come back and listen. But going into this, I wasn't excited about the movie when I heard it was announced. I just didn't know if it was necessary. I thought the trailers for this movie were great. Mm-hmm. I love the vibe that they were showing of this like 70s political thriller. And then, yeah, just like seeing some of the initial reviews of it being one of the worst MCU movies and all that. I don't know. I was kind of mixed going into it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I walked out of it actually liking this movie. I dug it. I don't think it's a top tier Marvel movie by any means, but it's also not one of the worst. Mm-hmm. I think it does deliver on a lot of those like political espionage thriller elements that I wanted from it. There's a lot of kind of government and then these secret groups pulling strings and kind of had their hands in a lot of different places there. So I actually liked it. I think that there are issues with it for sure. And I think mainly for me that comes from a lot of the dialogue in the movie is just very kind of generic and a lot of exposition, just explaining things and saying like, hey, we need to go do this thing, or like, yeah, get him, Falcon, or like stuff like that. So that's one of my biggest detractors, but overall I dug this movie though. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I had pretty decent expectations until like I started to hear more of the reviews, but I never thought going into this movie that it was going to be the best in the MCU. I was really kind of gunning for like, if you could get close to First Avenger for me in terms of quality, because I really love the First Avenger, and trying to stick within like the Captain America films of the MCU, like quality wise, if you could kind of get close to that, that'd be appreciated. That's really what I was hoping for. But overall, I was just like, can I just be entertained for 2 hours? Can I have a good time? Can you convince me that Red Hulk is worth being here? Because I wasn't like really sold on that idea. I was sold on Sam Wilson as Anthony Mackie being Captain America. I'm with that idea. Not to harp too much or boil it down too much to the percentage for Rotten Tomatoes, but it does have a 51% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. But the audience score is higher than what the First Avenger has, interestingly enough. It has an 80% Rotten Tomatoes score for the audience, whereas First Avenger, I believe, has a 78. I actually really enjoyed the film. I went in, I feel like, with pretty well-attuned expectations in terms of what I had heard, what I was hoping for. It does kind of... It has a lot that it's trying to tackle, and it does kind of feel like this... Like, there's so many subplots and different plot threads with... You got Serpent now, you got the leader, you have Cap being Cap and not being Steve Rogers, but being Sam Wilson. You also have Thaddeus Ross is now the president, and he's potentially dealing with a heart issue that might lead to him becoming the Red Hulk for reasons. And it kind of just tries to juggle a lot, and you can kind of feel a little bit of the big reshoots that they had to go through with this movie. But it also didn't detract a whole lot for me. Like, I still had a good time watching it, even though it was a lot, and I think you and I talked about it. The first half is a lot of that expositional dialogue and just kind of setting up what's to come and figuring out, like, all right, well, there's this plot thread with Serpent and Giancarlo Esposito, and you got the leader, and you got Harrison Ford now being Thaddeus Ross and trying to take over his presidency. Oh, there's assassination attempt. Like, there's a lot of things it's trying to juggle all at once. But once you get kind of in that second half, I do think it narrows in on, all right, this is the story. Like, we get more Cap, which... My biggest negative for this movie is the fact that it is a Captain America movie, but Sam Wilson doesn't feel like the lead to me a lot. It is kind of like a dual lead thing with Harrison Ford. Like, you get a lot of Thaddeus Ross in this movie, which I did actually enjoy. There are some really good character moments between them, some good conversations, but also within that, there are some really like exposition-heavy dialogue between them of just like, you are outlining the plot because you guys don't know if you're going to be able to communicate this to us later on. There is... You said spoilers, or...
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect. There is my favorite scene in the movie is between Sam Wilson and Bucky. Just because it's something that's not marked in the trailers. And you get... Finally, it succinctly kind of wraps up and summarizes what Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that show, was about, where Sam's going... He's like, I don't know. Like, I'm not made for this. I didn't take the serum. I'm not like you guys. He took down 2 different... alien invasions, and I'm struggling with this. Like, I'm not made for this. And Bucky says something along the lines of, Steve gave them something to believe in. you give them something to aspire to. And I was like, wow, that so succinctly explains why I think he is a great fit to fill in that Captain America kind of moniker and take over that the shield and now the wings. And I'm really sold on Sam Wilson, and I think Anthony Mackie is great in this movie. And if anything, I'm like, you're perfect. I need the movie around you to be a little bit better. But I did enjoy this. I kind of got to the point once I heard the negative reviews. I'm like, just be like as good as I almost said Madam Web.
I was gonna say, whoa.
That's different. Be as good as Black Widow for me. Because Black Widow, when I saw it, I was like, wow, I really enjoyed it. It's a fun spy, little niche thriller within the MCU. It feels like with Black Widow and with Captain America Brave New World, it came out a little late in the MCU. Like if both of those movies came out like 2 to 3 years earlier, it would have made more sense to me. Because this does kind of act more like a sequel to The Incredible Hulk. There's a lot of carryover between that because you're really getting a lot of Thaddeus Ross's backstory in this film. And you get some good character moments between him and wanting the kind of appreciation, the attention of his daughter, and just to have her recognize like he's still working on being a better person. And there's some good moments like that throughout the film. Overall, it is kind of just messy, but we saw it with 2 of our best friends, and I think 3 of us were pretty positive on it. One of our friends was like, yeah, I dislike this. This
like
is
2 out of 10.
Yeah, he's like, this is my bottom 5 MCU. I'm like, okay, like fine. Yeah. I was like, as long as it's better than Quantumania. And he's like, oh, I'd rather watch Quantumania than this. I'm like, oh shit, okay.
Whoa.
Damn.
Yeah, it's no, I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. I think the first third or first half is a little bit messy in its setup, and it really is just a lot of those different storylines. Another one is Isaiah Bradley is a major character in this movie. For the first part, anyway, and I loved him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought he was one of the highlights of that show, and I think his story is just really interesting, and his dynamic with Sam Wilson is great. And I wish we would have had more of that in this movie, because he kind of goes away for the middle chunk of this one. But another thing that stood out to me was the Celestial Island fight. I really liked that one.
Yeah. The team letting his hands coming out of the ocean.
Kind of finally get an answer to that, or at least like acknowledgement of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have Cap and Falcon like flying around, taking down jets, and trying to kind of play this game of like not killing these people, but also getting them to stop fucking shooting at each other. So I thought that was a really good scene, and I thought the visual effects there looked pretty good. Of just the background of Tiamat looked really cool, but. Yeah, Harrison Ford, I also think, gives a great performance in this movie, which, I mean, obviously Harrison Ford is amazing. I didn't know if he would kind of be clocking in for this one, or if it's like, it's a paycheck movie, and I'm just kind of doing this. But I think that he fills in nicely for William Hurt, and definitely brings a different dynamic than William Hurt would have if he were still alive to be able to play this character. But like you were talking about with his relationship with Liv Tyler, who plays Betty Ross, his daughter, I thought that worked really well in this movie, and kind of gave it a little bit more than him just being, all right, I'm Red Hulk now, and that's it. It's actually him trying to be a better person, like you were saying, and there's a really good like phone call that he has with her, in the third act, which I thought was nice, and then you get a nice little Liv Tyler coming back to the MCU after, since 2008 it's been, which is crazy. One part of the movie that I'm kind of mixed on is the leader. I think the idea of this character is really cool, and I think when it was more of the leader kind of being in the dark and you just hear phone calls and like you see him in shadows, I think that was really cool, and I liked how that worked. But once you see Tim Blake Nelson come out and he's just green broccoli head, just puffy and weird looking, and he's just like standing in broad daylight like in the middle of a park
and
or
no one's like looking at him like, oh dude, what's going on over there?
What are you?
Yeah.
That kind of took away some of the appeal. But again, like I like the idea of that, but I just don't know if it fully worked. And I think that really is the main problem with this movie. Is just too many ideas. You can see some of the reshoots coming in to like try and fix some stuff or bridge gaps between scenes. And I felt that too with Sidewinder, played by Giancarlo Esposito, because I thought he was good in the movie, but we just don't see enough of him. He just really disappears for the last like 45 minutes. And I'd love to see him come back, because I think he's a cool character, and the Serpent Society is a neat group to follow. But it's just a lot of good elements in this movie and great scenes throughout, but it's just not all connected as smoothly as it could have been.
Yeah, and the action worked for me for the most part. I heard things about people not being a big fan of a lot of the hand-to-hand. It's not like the smoothest thing. Like the action and the combat here isn't like Winter Soldier, so I feel like honestly, the biggest thing that this movie has to go up against is being likened to or related to Winter Soldier, because it does kind of harp on that like political intrigue thriller, which that aspect of the film I wish there was a little bit more of. I've seen reviews where people are like, this movie was so political and like too over the top with its messaging, and I've seen other reviews where like, it's not enough. And I kind of lean with that, where I'm like, you didn't like say too much. You could have said more. You could have taken more of a stance, because that's kind of what we've gotten, at least with Winter Soldier for sure, and a little bit of Civil War telling us to choose a side and who do you root for, what side are you on. This is a little bit more kind of, it's a little bit light on that kind of political messaging. So I've seen the negative reviews regarding both sides of that spectrum of people like, too much, not enough, whatever. I could have done for more, but overall, like I said, I enjoyed this movie. There's nothing in this movie I hated. There is one scene with Harrison Ford playing 2008 Thaddeus Ross, where it's like a shot back to him in a press conference, almost like an interview, and he has the mustache of Thaddeus Ross in 2008, and it's just like, it feels too much like you're doing an impression of Hurt, so it just doesn't work for me. Overall, though, like, it didn't meet my highest of expectations. But it's not the worst of the MCU. I liked it more than the Marvels, and I like the Marvels. I liked it probably about as much as Black Widow. I like that movie. I don't think it's like a low point in the MCU. I just think it's like middle of the road. Like, almost like Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness is middle of the road for me pretty much, and this is kind of within that. I like the character work. I'm excited to hopefully see more of Anthony Mackie as Captain America. And honestly, one of the big takeaways from this movie is that Harrison Ford as Thaddeus Ross telling him, like, hey, I want you to bring the Avengers back. Like, I want you to put together that team with me. And I'm like, I'm actually really excited to see what the Avengers looks like with Anthony Mackie taking over that Captain America moniker and kind of hopefully leading a team forward. So
yeah, it feels nice to have some direction a little bit in the MCU.
That's what this was. This was like, all right, this is where we're going now.
Yep.
This is an adjustment, and now we're setting the course.
Yep. So, and we were talking about it. Like, it's kind of exciting just hearing, like, all right, the Avengers are getting back together.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it's not going to be, a lot of the main ones again, but still, it's just kind of nice to have a sense of where we're going. And it feels like a little bit too late, like you were saying. This should have happened maybe like 3 or 4 movies ago.
Yeah.
Because we're a couple movies away from the next Avengers movie, which is wild. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed a lot of this movie. That scene with Bucky, like you said, was really great, and I'm excited to see him pop up in Thunderbolts and where his character goes as a congressman, I guess.
Yeah, because that's what they said.
That.
He had a pin, like the American flag pin on his lapel of his suit when you saw Sam, and he was like, "Oh, was that Congressman James Buchanan Barnes?" And it's like, he was like an assassin for a while.
Killed a lot of people.
Yeah, he killed a lot of people. Oh, he's gonna be a congressman? Okay, but how does that play into Thunderbolts? But also, I'm interested to see kind of what the timeline is, because I don't know 100% when either of these take place in correlation with the other. Yeah, so that's an interesting thing of like, Congressman Buchanan. All right, whatever.
Yeah, but no, overall, I think I'd probably give this movie like a B.
Yeah, B to B minus in that range.
It's solid. I haven't really watched a lot of in-depth reviews about it, and I actually am excited to just see what people say and kind of hear their in detail thoughts. But I certainly don't hate it as much as everybody else seems to be saying how bad it is.
And I might try and watch it again in theaters, just because it's a Marvel movie in theaters. We had one last year.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to, it's like kind of fun just to be able to, especially after watching a lot of like these Oscar movies, to kind of go into a theater and just have a good time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know it's fun seeing it with our buddies. So I think we'd both recommend it. Don't just listen to the bad reviews and say, well, I'm not going to see it because of those. Go check it out.
Yeah.
So another thing that came out this week was Paddington in Peru. And before I watched that movie, I watched the first 2 Paddington movies because I'd never seen them before. And I've heard from both you and everybody else on planet Earth that Paddington 1 and 2 are just as good as The Godfather. That they're it's kind of like a joke of like Paddington 2 better than Godfather, whatever. But I loved watching these movies. They are so delightful and just very heartwarming and just warm movies. Like, they just make you feel good. It's great work from Paul King to bring this character to life and make it feel so genuine, and have a great family dynamic with like Hugh Bonneville and Sally Hawkins and their kids, and then Ben Whishaw voicing Paddington is perfect. I was reading that they had Colin Firth initially cast to voice Paddington, which I think would have been fine, but it would have lost that like childlike kind of naivety to it a little bit.
Did you ever watch that first trailer? Because they had the trailer come out with Colin Firth's voice in it, and it was just so jarring. So then they made the switch to Ben Whishaw, who is perfect as Paddington. But I remember that first trailer coming out, and when I saw it, I was like, I don't know if I need to see this movie.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. But yeah, I think Ben Whishaw is perfect, and it really, they're just like fun movies that are, and along with Wonka too, which I really like, and also directed by Paul King. He just finds a way to have these like kind of some fantastical elements in the stories, but make them feel very sincere. And also just with the character of Paddington, I think it does a great job of having him be very curious about the world. He's this bear from Peru that's, trying to fit into London culture and life and everything. And he's he's asks a lot of questions, and he doesn't know how a toothbrush works, or just all these little things. And they don't treat him like he's stupid. Like a lot of animated movies or like family-oriented movies kind of treat some like kid characters like they're dumb. But this movie, or all these movies, seem to kind of encourage just being curious about the world and like getting to know what's going on. And you may not understand it at first, but getting to know it as you have more experiences. So it's just really great messages. Also, the villains of the first two, Nicole Kidman is great in the first one. Hugh Grant is so much fun in the second one. Mm-hmm. Brendan Gleeson as Knuckles McGinty. He's great in the second one as well, making marmalade sandwiches in prison. So I loved watching through these first two movies, and I've been wanting to watch them for a while, and this was a great opportunity to check them out.
Yeah, I love these movies. The first movie kind of took me by storm. I didn't know much about the Paddington Bear. I'd always seen the covers of like those books, and I knew of the Paddington Bear, but I didn't know kind of any of the backstory behind it. And then watching the first movie, it was more of just like, how are you going to make this work? How are you going to make this live speaking bear exist within this world and have it not be weird? And I love the charm of it, and it doesn't try to explain anything. It's just, this bear is a member of the community, and people just are like, oh, hey, there's the bear, and they'll talk with Paddington, and it's not thought of like, oh my god, that's a bear. It's just, oh, hey, Paddington, like, what's up? And it's such a fun family movie, and both movies have such good messaging. I love Paddington 2. I love all of these movies, but Paddington 2, I think, is my favorite of the three. Yeah, and like you said, the casting for these movies is fantastic, and what I will talk about as being my one negative Paddington in Peru is Sally Hawkins is amazing in the first two films. She is not back in Paddington in Peru. Emily Mortimer takes over in her role. I did also run out to see Paddington in Peru this past week. The film is also directed by a new director, Doug O. Wilson. First film, I believe, from him, but I think he has some involvement within this franchise prior, or at least, and I think Paul King is still on board as either a producer or writing credit. The synopsis for Paddington in Peru is Paddington returns to his home, Peru, to visit his beloved Aunt Lucy, who now resides at the home of retired bears, which isn't just... That's like the sweetest fucking thing. The home of retired bears is where Paddington's aunt is. With the Brown family in tow, a thrilling adventure ensues when a mystery plunges them into an unexpected journey. I saw this movie. It was on my top 10 anticipated for 2025, even though it technically is a 2024 film, just because all of the world got it before the United States. But I went into this movie really excited because I love those first two films, and I'm really happy you were able to sit down and watch those and also go check out Paddington in Peru. But I heard a lot of people saying like this is the worst of the three. It's like a step down. Not that it's bad, it's just a step down in terms of just quality or kind of the charm of it. I disagree 100% with that. I think it's definitely on that level of that, at least the first one, because I think Paddington 2 is the best of this trilogy. Excuse me while I burp up this nasty green sludge. But Paddington Peru is definitely deserving of the quality expectation of this trilogy because it's so well done. My real only critique is the casting of Emily Mortimer, but that's more of just like a bias. I think if it was Emily Mortimer from here on out, from the first two movies to this one, I don't think it would have been a negative. But Sally Hawkins in those first two movies is so cheery and optimistic, and she has just a high tone, and she's just always like ready for her family, and she's always very cheery. Emily Mortimer is a little bit more I don't even think that this is intentional, just her portrayal. She's a little bit more quiet, a little bit more serious. Her voice is lower. Like, it's a different type of motherly love from this character. So it kind of took me out a little bit. But I loved this movie. These movies make me cry Not because they're sad. It's just that they're just so charming, and it's this bear that's just so optimistic and doesn't take offense to anything. He just wants good to be done, wants to help people when he can. He wants to make a marmalade sandwich here and there. He wants to see his Aunt Lucy as much as he can. It's just such a sweet movie about family. These are the 3 films I'm most excited to share with my children when I eventually have children. I love these movies. Paddington, Peru was the first movie I've seen in 2025, even though it's a 2024 film, that really satisfied me. That I just, across the board, I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted, and it's giving me that, and it worked perfectly. Corey, what were your thoughts on Paddington, Peru?
Yeah, I think this one is... I will say it's like a little bit of a step down from the first 2, but that still is great.
You're a liar.
Fuck off. Drink your sludge. But this movie's great. It is so charming. I'm so glad I got to see a Paddington movie in theaters finally. And I think this is a great way to... Like, we've had the origin story of the first one, and then the second one is a London adventure. So this one, like, let's go to Peru, and let's see where his kind of origins are, and where his, like, tribe and his family, and going to see his aunt. So I think it's a really fun adventure in Peru, just, like, along the river, and just in these kind of, like, Inca temples and ruins and stuff like that is really fun. And you have a couple different villains in this movie, and I guess one of them's kind of a spoiler, so I won't say anything, but... I think they could have been consolidated into one villain, and just to make it a little bit cleaner, because Antonio Banderas, he's kind of marketed as like the main villain of the movie. I feel like, but he has he's kind of this guy that has a boat that they go on for the adventure, and he has like a lot of his ancestors talking to him throughout the movie. And that seemed to kind of slow it down a little bit for me, where I'm like, I could be having Paddington moments right now, but I'm seeing Antonio Banderas talk to himself. So I think his character, for me, even though he has like a sweet enough relationship with his daughter that kind of has a nice, fulfilling ending to it, I think that is why this one is just like a notch down for me, because I do love the villains from the first 2 so much. But, I mean, this is still such a great family movie, and there's a scene towards the end that is... very emotional, just with the family sitting around and just thinking about their kind of history with Paddington. And they're so heartwarming, they're so sweet, and it's really just a great movie for kids to learn lessons, but also parents going to see these movies too, I think, are going to have a good time and be like, oh, this isn't bad.
Yeah.
Like, I could actually enjoy a movie made for kids. Like, yeah, this is great. And all 3 movies are so incredible, and we were talking about it earlier, like, it's sad that these movies won't win Oscars, because they're not fully animated, obviously, and it like doesn't quite fit into a lot of other categories, but they're awards-worthy movies, because they're all so great.
Yeah, they're made at such a high quality, and they're films that like respect their audience, even though their audience is predominantly going to be children, likely, or people that grew up with Paddington and have a lot of nostalgia there. So just the respect that I think that these films have for the audience that's watching them. Like I said, even with Captain America and Paddington and Peru, having just 2 films that were relatively light, that I could just, well, to say Captain America is light, just movies that I can just go and have a good time. I'm coming off of a lot of like almost Oscar movie fatigue of I've seen so much dark subject material. This is beginning to be a gripe for me with a lot of Oscar-nominated films. They have to be something so serious and so dark and so sad and so life-changing, or a historical event or about a historical time that is just so bad. And I'm like, can we just have a movie nominated for an Oscar that's just happy? I just need that right now. And I think Paddington is worthy of that. Like, it's in that realm of like, it's just such a well-made movie, all 3 of them. So I'm happy you're able to catch up and get all 3 of them under your belt. I was so happy to see Paddington and Peru in theaters. I also got a nice little marmalade keychain at my screening, so happy about that too. But yeah, Paddington and Peru is definitely worth your time. If there's anything coming out this week that you're really excited about, maybe put Paddington Peru also on that agenda, because it's worth your time. But like I said, as I've kind of been circling through a lot of my Oscar homework of I need to finish the documentary category, I need to finish visual effects category and stuff like that, I went and finally saw No Other Land, because it's finally showing near us at a little indie art house theater, the Main Cinema in Minneapolis, which me and Corey have talked about before. It's a small theater. We love it to death just because of their ability to get a bunch of different stories, different perspectives, a lot of art house cinema, but also they kind of highlight some of those more mainstream blockbusters. So it's a great theater, but they finally had No Other Land, the one documentary on my list that I've been like, I don't know how I'm going to see this before Oscars just because of their distribution. The film is directed by Basil Adra, Hamdan Bilal, Yuval Abraham and Rachel Cizor. The summary of the film is a young Palestinian activist named Basel Adra has been resisting the forced displacement of his people by Israel's military in Masfar Yatta, a region in the West Bank, since he was a child. He records this gradual destruction of his homeland where Israeli soldiers are tearing down homes and evicting the inhabitants in order to create military firing zones. He befriends Yuval, a Jewish Israeli journalist who helps him in his struggle. It's a heavy topic, and it's a hard watch, especially at times. You see some really horrific acts, and it's very well documented. It doesn't... My big thing, whenever I hear documentary, I always think it's going to be a sit-down interview with someone. You're going to have a little bit of story from narration, and then you're going to get someone from that story being interviewed, and you'll get them telling their version of the events or their recollection of the events. This is a film of a person just going through it and documenting it, just because that's all he knows. He's like, this is the only way we're going to get attention is if other people see this, because we all know, while we're all a part of this community that's being displaced, we all know that this is bad. But us yelling about it isn't going to change anything. We need to show other people how horrible this is. It's not an easy watch. Again, a lot of these documentaries are about pretty serious times in history and horrible things that are still happening now. It's very well made. It's hard to really review documentaries. I'm not super experienced in to say something's not paced well, but it's about like such horrific true events. It's like that just feels like it's in bad taste. It's very well made. It is a lot of real-time footage of this man just running from soldiers and trying to duck and cover. You see brutal acts play out. I think in terms of like the documentary category, when it boils down to it, it's going to definitely be between No Other Land and Porcelain War for the Oscar this year, and I have no issue with that. I love Porcelain War. It's one of my favorite documentaries I've ever seen. But if No Other Land wins, it's deserving of it. Because the way that they're able to truthfully and just document what is happening and the injustices they're facing and the lack of a explanation for it. They're being displaced, but the military's like, oh yeah, we're going to use this for firing, whatever. We're going to use this for military practices. But you never see those military practices show up or go into effect. So it's like, what are you actually doing here? You're just forcing people out. So... It's a really hard story. It was hard to watch, but it's a really well done documentary. Corey, I'd really recommend this to you. I don't know in terms of the documentaries what really you're itching to go see, if there's any. I know Porcelain War might be on your radar just because I kind of praised that one a lot. Is No Other Land kind of in that conversation for maybe you'll try and check it out? Maybe when it's a little bit more widely distributed?
Yeah. No, Porcelain War and this one are the two that I just heard from most kind of throughout the Oscar season of people saying are the front runners, and yeah, like you said, it feels like it's kind of between those two. Just from hearing kind of buzz so far, I feel like No Other Land might have a little bit of a lead.
Yeah.
It's obviously still very relevant. It's an ongoing issue right now, so I think I've mentioned it in other weeks. Like, I don't always rush out to see the documentaries, but certainly stuff that I'm interested in. It's just that they often are such heavy topics that I'm not always in the mood to like get into them.
Yeah.
And if something like a Paddington watch through comes along, I'm like, I'm going to prioritize that a little bit. So
what I will say, because I try not to speak too much about like snubs or things that I think should have gotten nominated that didn't, until I've seen everything that was nominated in that category. I've seen now all of the documentary features that were nominated for this year's Oscars, and I 100%, I won't say it's a snub, but I will acknowledge, recognize, and agree with those who are mad that Superman, a Christopher Reeve story, didn't get a Best Documentary nomination. Not that I would take out No Other Land. I'm not taking out Porcelain War. I think Black Box Diaries stays. I think you take out Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat. I think that is a very frustrating film to watch. Not that the story is not important or interesting. It's just the way in which it's documented and told is not effective. And I think that if there was to be a switch in this category, I would put Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, in that place. And it helps with, it's a good story about a good man doing good things. So a little break in a lot of the seriousness and the dread that kind of exists within these other nominees that are really serious and important stories, but are really sometimes just a hard thing to watch and sit through. Nonetheless, No Other Land is a phenomenal documentary, and if you're lucky enough to have it distributed near you, in theaters near you, try and go see it. Try and support it because it's a very small-made film, but it's very well documented. Moving into another movie that I was catching up on for Best Visual Effects was Better Man, directed by Michael Gracie, the director of The Greatest Showman, which is a musical I actually really enjoy. The film starring Jonah Davies, Steve Pemberton, and Damon Harriman.
Pemberbottom.
I almost said Pemberbottom. The synopsis... As an American man reading this movie
we
is
don't
so...
care.
No, it's about
care.
Robbie Williams and his rise and fall. It's the generic music biopic shit. Like, it's everything that I dislike in musical biopics. What I say is not... Like, why I wasn't originally excited to see A Complete Unknown was because I'm like, I don't need this musical biopic. It's going to be the rise and fall and the rehabilitative period of where we're like, oh, this person's okay now. And that's what this is. That's literally what this fucking movie is, except they make him a monkey. Ooh, cool. So awesome. I love watching just a fucking monkey run around and be an asshole and have a meteoric rise to fame in this boy band and then do a little solo tour and then have a cocaine and drug addiction and then have a falling out with his family and then, oh, guys, I'm not doing well. Oh, no, I'm good now. I'm back on top. Guys, look, this is why I was so fucked up so long ago. I'm so much better now. That's literally how this movie goes. But I will say I liked it, which is wild after I kind of went on a rant. This movie was directed with such great energy by Michael Gracie, something that I kind of came to expect after seeing The Greatest Showman. The choreography of the music, like the scenes, the dance numbers, everything is so well done. I was surprised at how much I really enjoyed watching this movie. The visual effects are stunning. And after seeing this movie, I understand its nomination in that category just because that category is built of heavy hitters. And I was like, Better Man? Really? And when you see it, it's like every single time you see your main character, it's a visual effects shot. That's a daunting task. So it was well done. After a while, after like kind of washed over me and I was done seeing, oh wow, it's a monkey, cool. And like I was able to be like, what? Like I see this this monkey as Robbie Williams. Like it's not even a thing where I have to break down that barrier of like, okay, it's a monkey and he's Robbie Williams. It's just, oh, there's Robbie Williams. And I don't see the fact that he would like a banana now and then. But this movie was a surprise to me. I don't love it. I really enjoyed watching it. It does follow that same plot, storyline, formulaic bullshit of musical biopics that they do, and the thing that I can't stand. I don't know what the fucking point of making him a monkey was. I get, like, Robbie Williams in an interview said something along the lines of him feeling like he has more in common with a monkey than he does an actual human being. Cool.
All right.
But you're gonna make a movie that should cost maybe 10 to 15 million. You're gonna make it cost over 100 million, and then it's gonna lose dick all at the fucking box office because no one wants to see your monkey bullshit.
Yeah, this movie did awful.
Awful. So bad. Maybe it has to be the lowest box office performing movie, the biggest disappointment of last year. For
sure. I mean, it's definitely up there. Yeah, I have not seen it yet. If it drops somewhere before the Oscars, I'll watch it. If Oscars pass and it's not anywhere, I don't know that I'll watch it.
I rented this fucking movie for $20.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it was good. I'm happy I at least got enjoyment out of it.
That's good. I'm happy. Note to Robbie Williams, we don't care. We don't care. You tried to make an America thing happen multiple times. We don't care.
No. But I will say, some of his songs played throughout the movie, and I'm like, oh, I do recognize this. Oh, that's him. Oh, that's cool. But it's not enough to where I'm like, I need to see the new Robbie Williams movie. I feel like that this movie would have done same, if not better, if it was just a straight up biopic. But also, I think that the idea of that is flawed because in the United States, 90% of the people don't fucking know who Robbie Williams is.
They don't give a fuck.
So it's a well-made movie, and I kind of went in with that expectation of like, you know what, it's Michael Gracie. I like The Greatest Showman. I like the energy. I know he can handle musical scenes and like that choreography. He's got that down, and he did, and he killed it in this movie. But it's the same formulaic schlock, and now it's a monkey. So
yeah, as somebody, and this is I know a very hot take that doesn't really like The Greatest Showman all that much. I think that movie has great music. The songs in that movie are incredible. The movie itself, I don't think is very good. I don't think the story's good. I don't think it's very good. But like I said, if this pops up somewhere, I'll definitely watch it just to get through another nominee. But I'm not rushing out to just see Monk sing songs.
Monk. Another movie I saw that I'm guessing you likely will not see.
Nope.
Which I'm not going to hold it against you if you don't.
Sorry, I shouldn't say it like that. That sounds bad once you say the title
yeah,
of anything.
So the 6 888. But why I saw it, because I heard about this movie when it first came out, and I didn't really have the most excitement in terms of ever like sitting down to watch it. It was a Netflix release, directed by Tyler Perry, his directorial efforts aren't always the best, but him in Gone Girl and David Fincher's Gone Girl, gives an amazing performance in that movie, and I actually really like Tyler Perry. But anyways, I watched this movie because it was nominated for Best Original Song coming from one of your favorite people in the world, Diane Warren. The song called "The Journey," which is nominated for Best, like I said, Original Song at this year's upcoming Oscars. A gripe I want to air right away with that category. Best Original Song. A lot of the songs nominated, I feel like, tend to typically take place during the end credits of a fucking movie. That shouldn't count. That's not the movie. Yeah, you're getting the credits, and you're getting the few members of the audience that are like gonna sit through the credits respectfully. Sure, give them a nice song to listen to, but to nominate that for Best Original Song, I think is absolute bullshit. It has no effect on the fucking movie. From opening frame to closing frame before the end credits, if that song doesn't happen, doesn't count. I think that has to be a rule, a requirement within this category, because The Journey, I will say, it starts. You get a little bit of that at the very tail end of the movie, because this is a movie that is a historical film. It's based in fact, and you're getting the text on screen as you do with most films that have war at the forefront or a historical point of view. You're getting the text on screen giving you the rundown of the true events and what happened after this movie. So you get a little bit of the song there, and it carries into the end credits. Okay, fine. I will give you a little bit of credit because you had a little bit in the movie. I'm getting more mad at that than I am actually at the actual movie. The 688, like I said, directed by Tyler Perry. It stars Kerry Washington, Ebony Obsidian, and Dean Norris in a horribly jarring performance from him. But regardless, this film is during World War II. 855 women joined the fight to fix the 3-year backlog of undelivered mail. I can't speak.
It's the sludge, dude.
It's the sludge. It's all in my tongue.
It's talking to me.
It's like the Green Goblin mask.
Yeah.
It's in my mouth, and it is the worst aftertaste. So like trying to muscle that down and like sip
I've
water.
been at a sip in like 30 minutes.
Oh, good for you, dude. I'm trying to I keep trying to wet my palate, and then I'm like, oh, it's that. Like I should just be reaching for my Nalgene instead. But anyway, during World War II, 855 women joined the fight to fix the 3-year backlog of undelivered mail. Faced with discrimination and a country devastated by war, they managed to sort more than 17 million pieces of mail ahead of time. It's a film about people wanting to help in a time that's needed, and it's a very important story, and it shines light on a perspective in history that I didn't know about. Not a lot of people probably knew about. I will say the film's kind of flat. Like, it's not anything special. The performances are kind of like Kerry Washington. She's good in scenes, and then she's over the top and really melodramatic in scenes. And it kind of just ranges from that. Dean Norris has this weird southern jarring accent that was honestly kind of enjoying to watch, but it's not good. It's enjoying to watch like, wow, you're really fucking doing that right now. The rest of the performances overall are pretty good throughout the cast. It's just kind of Kerry Washington. She's the lead, or one of the main leads, and her performance kind of teetered-tottered back and forth between like, I think this is good. Wow, you're really like hamming it up right now, and I don't buy into it. The song itself, the Journey that's in this, it's a good song. I get it. Does it deserve a nomination? Corey would probably say no, because it's Diane Warren.
Diane Warren's blood pact with the devil to get a nomination every year continues.
Yeah.
And just for that, I'm not going to watch it, which I hate that that's the reason, but...
I gave it... So I posted my review to our Instagram, and I gave it a C+. It's enjoyable enough. It is a good story, and it's something that I don't think a lot of people know about. I referenced in my review that it feels like a film, like visually, like the style of this movie, it's directed like a flat Lifetime movie, like, and that's how it watches. It's melodramatic at times, but it kind of filled me with nostalgia, because like on a Sunday afternoon, sometimes I'd watch a Lifetime movie with my mom when I was younger, so that's kind of how it felt. So it's like, that kind of worked for me in that way, but it's not anything that I would recommend a lot of people to go and see, aside from like the importance of the story. Honestly, you'd probably do yourself a better favor just looking into what this story is actually about, as opposed to actually watching the movie. And that song, it's fine, sure, whatever. You can nominate it, fine, whatever. Again, within that same category for Best Original Songs, because after I finished the 688, I'm like, okay, so I know the 688 has a Best Original Song nominee, and I know the other ones. I know Amelia Perez has 2 and all that. But I was like, I must be missing something. There's a movie that I'm missing on my Oscar nominee watch through that I haven't thought of that has an original song in it. And that is Elton John, Never Too Late. Which, as a massive Elton John fan, I was like, yeah, fine, I'll watch this Elton John documentary. It's a very mediocre documentary about him kind of recounting his life leading up to his final show on his farewell tour. And for that, it was enjoyable enough to watch as an Elton John fan. But, like I said, my biggest gripe with this stupid fucking category is this song only happens and exists within the credits of this fucking documentary. And for that, fuck this movie.
Just go watch Rocketman.
Go watch Rocketman. It's such a good film. That is a musical biopic that works for me from like end to end. I think it's so much fun. I think there's so much good energy there, and I'm invested in that. Even though that still does follow kind of that same rise and fall of an artist. This documentary, it gives you, like, for me, I don't know everything about Elton John, but I'm a fan of his, and I knew most of the stuff he talked about. Sure, there's some like name drops of John Lennon and him hanging out with John Lennon and just like different aspects of like relationships in his life and how it kind of affected him growing up and kind of why he's hanging up the microphone, I guess, and gonna retire to a quieter life with his family, because he's like, I got kids that are 7 and I likely won't see them get married ever. Like, I'm so old, I might not see that day. So, like, there's some good emotion in that film to see, like, a man recount the end of his, or not the end of his life, but the end of his career, and just, like, wow, how things have changed, and what do I have to look forward to after this? So, it's worth it for that. It's not poorly made. It's just nothing, like, super surprising or innovative or special. It was just a good, like, send-off documentary for Elton John with a okay song in the end credits that shouldn't get a nominee just because has no effect on the actual fucking movie.
Yeah, I feel like this is a very weak category for original song this year.
Yeah,
besides 100%. The Wild Robot song, like,
I think Amelia Perez is gonna win.
Yeah, I think so too. Which, fuck that song, fuck that movie, whatever. You guys have heard our thoughts on that. Anyways, going into some things that are releasing this week, February 21st. The big thing is The Monkey, directed by Osgood Perkins, who just last year brought us Longlegs. This is based on a short story from Stephen King, which I haven't read. Have you read that?
No.
But it stars Theo James, Tatiana Maslany, or She-Hulk, which I know you haven't seen, but, you know, it's certainly a thing that exists.
They're red now?
And, yeah, and Elijah Wood, also in it. And it's about when twin brothers Bill and Hal find their father's old monkey toy in the attic. A series of gruesome deaths start to occur, and the siblings decide to throw the toy away and move on with their lives, growing apart over the years. This is what I'm really excited for. I enjoyed Longlegs more than you did last year. I really dug that movie. I thought the vibe of it was sweet. It's very Silence of the Lambs-esque, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to The Monkey. I think that the trailers have looked really cool. A lot of horror movies to start off this year, so it's been kind of interesting. So, yeah, one that I'm looking forward to, and I know that you actually saw this in like a preview event or something.
Saw an early fan event, I believe this past Wednesday. So, and this was a film that was on my top 10 for 2025, so I was excited about it. You mentioned that I'm not the biggest fan of Longlegs. I love the setup, the premise. Maybe the first like third to a half of that movie really works for me. It's just kind of the landing of that ship didn't really work. I saw The Monkey. I had I knew it was a horror comedy, and I knew that the horror was going to be kind of spread thin, and it's going to be more of a comedy set with a horror backdrop, and that's fine with me. That works for me sometimes. This film is, like Longlegs for me, a mixed bag. I would recommend going to see it, because the theater I was in fucking loved it, from the sounds of it. Everyone was laughing. There are some big laughs in this movie. For me, it was a little bit infrequent. Not everything landed. Not every joke landed. There's a shot in the trailer of like a father at a church getting up to the podium and saying, "Oh, fuck," and it's just like, I don't find that funny. And then that scene carries on for like 2 more minutes. I'm like, I still don't find this funny. So there's some awkward delivery at times of jokes. There's some kind of flat moments. There's not a lot of stakes, and some of the deaths kind of, at least in my opinion, move pretty quickly. I don't want to give too much of my thoughts just because this movie's still coming out. I think if you're interested in the movie, if you've seen the trailer and the trailer works for you, go see it. I'm just going to say that maybe the best moments of the movie are in that trailer. So, I don't know. If I would go in as blind as you possibly can. it does have, as someone who didn't read the Stephen King like short that this is based on, it does kind of have that like Stephen King feel to it. It's almost like Christine, like the car that was possessed that goes and kills people. It has that kind of energy to it. There are some really entertaining deaths. There's a really amazing cameo at the very beginning of this film that the film opens with that I loved. Theo James is great. Tatiana Maslany is great. Elijah Wood has a very small cameo in the film, but he is so... His part of the movie was very funny. That had me laughing almost everything he said. So it's a mixed bag for me. I think overall, my review, I give it a B-. It's still in that range. I think overall I might prefer Longlegs to this, but I'm still... While I didn't love these movies, I'm still eager to rewatch both of them. I'd recommend going to see it. I want Theo James as Batman. That's my pick. After hearing him in this movie, seeing him in this movie, I need him as someone in this DCU. I think he could be a fantastic Batman. I think he could be really he could be Aquaman. He could be good. I think the performances are good. It's just the humor didn't always work for me. And there's not the most amount of stakes. It is shot impeccably well. It is a fun movie to look at. It's a fun movie to watch. It just didn't always work for me, but definitely go out and see it. The Monkey, opening on February 21st this upcoming week, as well as the film Cleaner, directed by Martin Campbell, director of GoldenEye, Casino Royale, two of the best James Bond movies, also directing Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Woo! All right. And The Mask and The Legend of Zorro, which I love The Mask and Legend of Zorro. Those are two of my favorite like swashbuckling fun action movies. Green Lantern, I remember when I saw that movie when I was 11, I thought that movie fucking hit.
Oh, hell yeah.
I thought that movie was like a solid 7, 8 out of 10. And then I grew up and rewatched it and I was like, whoa, what is this? What is this? But anyway, Cleaner, directed by Martin Campbell, starring Daisy Ridley, Clive Owen. I could read you the synopsis. It just kind of plays out like Die Hard a little bit. Criminal activists hijack a gala taking 300 hostages. One extremist plans mass murder as a message to the world. An ex-soldier, Daisy Ridley, turned window cleaner and now works to rescue the hostages. I don't know if I've ever really talked much about my job, but I work at a window cleaning company in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I manage the commercial department of that, so it's a lot of rappel and high-rise cleaners. So seeing a movie that takes place about a high-rise window cleaner having to basically be John McClane and save all the hostages from these terrorists at this gala thing, I'm like, okay. So I'm kind of going into this movie, I might actually go see this just because I'm like, I kind of want to see if I can pick this movie apart and say like, fuck it, that's wrong, that's not right.
You also used to actually clean the windows yourself in some buildings.
I've repelled a bit, and it's not actually as scary as people think it is. It's the safest way that you can do anything in terms of cleaning windows. It's safer than a ladder. You're tied off, but the trailer didn't work for me. Corey, what about you?
I haven't even seen the trailer.
It's not good.
Yeah, but in the same way that, I saw September 5th a few weeks ago, and that was about my job. You have Cleaner now, about your job.
Woo!
So look at that.
Can't wait.
That's super exciting.
The biggest, thing I have going for this is Martin Campbell. Because didn't he do, he's been doing kind of smaller action movies now. He did
The Protege.
The Protege with Michael Keaton.
And The Foreigner with Jackie Chan, I think.
That movie's actually great.
I haven't seen it.
I actually really enjoyed that movie. I forgot he did that.
Yeah, he's been cranking out some of these just smaller budget action movies the past few years, it looks like.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be an opening weekend thing for me.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be like a Sunday matinee. That is the best way I could describe my excitement for this movie. It's like, I'm interested, but I'm not going to rush out to see it.
Yeah. Last kind of big thing coming out this week is called The Unbreakable Boy. This is directed by John Gunn, who has worked on a lot of faith-based movies in the past. And it stars Zachary Levi, Megan Fahey, and Jacob Laval. It's about a young boy with both a rare brittle bone disease and autism. But what makes him truly unique is his joyous, funny, life-affirming worldview that transforms and unites everyone around him. I've seen the trailer for this a couple times, just in theaters. And it looks like a sweet enough family movie. And coming from this director who's done a lot of faith-based movies, I feel like if those are your type of movies and that's what you're into, I think this is another one that's going to be right up your alley. Looks like just a feel-good story about this young boy and kind of just inspiring all the people around him. So
yeah, I've seen I saw the trailer recently before one of the movies I saw this past week, and I don't think I ever had seen it prior. This is really, I feel like, going to be what Zachary Levi kind of leans into now that Shazam didn't work out for him, and I don't know. I have no interest in this movie. I'm not the biggest faith-based movie person. The one that kind of piqued my interest was Ordinary Angels, which this director did a number of years ago or a couple of years back. So, saw the trailer. It looks the way you would expect it to look, being a faith-based film with kind of that synopsis. So, I'm sure it will work for people that really want to see it. I'm just not going to be checking it out right away. It feels like a movie you'd bring, like, your mom to, or, like, a movie that you'd go and see with, like, your family on Thanksgiving.
Oh, I know my mom will text me and be like, we should go see this.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
It's like when Reagan came out last year, and my mom's like, we need to go see Reagan.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm going to take you to see Blink twice and see if you like it. And she was like, that movie was weird.
What I will say about some of the faith-based movies is that they usually, like, do pretty well at the box office because they're not made for that much money, and the crowd always comes out, I feel like, for these movies. So seems like that one could fit into that category as well.
Yep, for sure. Moving into a bit of a physical media roundup. This week, actually, hours ago before we started recording, I bought a movie, the only movie I bought this week, which was the A24 Blu-ray for The Brutalist, which I feel like in terms of Best Picture, what's going to win, it's going to come down between Brutalist and Anora. I might buy that Anora Criterion, even though I don't love that movie, and try and rewatch both of them before the Oscars in 2 weeks here. But I'm really excited to own The Brutalist eventually, whenever that fucking gets delivered, because it was a pre-order. But I'm excited to get it. I love the A24 releases. I have the Sing Sing pre-order as well, so just waiting now until I can finally... That's the worst thing about stores not carrying movies, is pre-ordering something and you don't get to, like, have it. It's just like, sweet. I'm not going to be excited when it arrives. It's just be like, oh, yeah, you're here now? I've gotten used to the idea that I already own you. So back on the shelf, like, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, the thrill of movie hunting has died down so much, which is sad. But to try and keep that alive, went to Half Price Books this past week and picked up a couple things, which I was happy to find. The first one is the movie Room, not The Room, not the Tommy Wiseau one. The Brie Larson movie that got her Oscar and nominated for Best Picture about a decade ago now.
That's
which is
fucking
very
crazy.
Same year as like Spotlight and Revenant, which I guess 10 years.
That was such a good year too. Oh my
Big Short
God.
was that year. Fury Road.
Yeah.
The Despise.
And you were talking to me earlier when we were driving to see Captain America, like, I'm seeing all the Oscar nominees this year, and you're like, are you going to do that every year? I'm like, dude, I did it on a year that, like, not even all the movies I like. Like, we had, like, hitter years, especially, like, 2019, like, 2014. There are years in movies where it's like, I want to see everything. This is more of, like, I want to be able to say that I saw everything, as opposed to, like, I feel the need to or want to. So this is more homework this year, whereas, like, when The Room was nominated, that'd have been like, fuck it, we're just booking, bud. This is good.
Yeah, but Room's a great movie. I haven't seen it since I initially saw it on Redbox.
Yeah, that was
my
like,
family got that.
That was the introduction to Jacob Tremblay. And
yeah, for sure. He's great in that movie, and really solid movie though. So I was happy to find that one on Blu-ray, and then I found a somewhat rare movie, which is the 4K of Alien. Which the 4K itself isn't that rare, but I found the version with the original slipcover on there, which is so nice and sparkly and fucking glossy. But yeah, I mean, Alien, one of my favorite movies of all time. Both of us love that movie, and it was like $13 or something, which I thought was a steal because I was just looking online, and it looks like with that slipcover, it's worth like $50-$60, something like that. So that was pretty cool to find that one. I need to get the Aliens 4K and then figure out what versions of Alien 3 and Resurrection I want, even though I don't.
Nope. Skip them. Skip them.
Alien
3. Alien 3 is fine.
Yeah.
David Fincher tried to do what he could with that movie.
Yeah.
That's actually like I think it's an enjoyable watch. But Resurrection, I think you could probably skip. You don't need to own that one.
Have you seen Resurrection?
I've seen parts on like the Sci-Fi Channel.
Seen the basketball scene?
Yep, I've seen the basketball scene. Everyone's seen the basketball scene, and even if they haven't seen Resurrections, they know the basketball scene. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's like the basketball scene in Catwoman. Like everyone knows that, even though they don't
Right.
have to sit down and fucking indoctrinate themselves to watching that horror on screen for so long.
It's just the disease of collecting where I'm like, well, I have the other ones. I need this one.
dude.
I know. I need it. Mason, I need it.
I trimmed down on my MCU collection, and now like the moment I'm in a theater watching an MCU movie, I'm like, fuck, which ones do I have? Which ones should I order right now?
All of them. Get them all again.
No.
Get them all
No,
again.
I do want to look at my copies of the Captain America trilogy because those are my favorite, and see if there's like a nice steelbook of those.
There's some good
somewhere.
4K steelbooks, yeah.
Yeah, so fuck, I might just be spending some coin here soon.
Do
But
it.
anyways, regardless of the MCU and my what I own in terms of my collection of those movies, the releases for this upcoming week on February 18th are the Nosferatu, which I am super excited about, September 5 or September 5th, which I know Corey's really excited about. Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, which Corey and I think both skipped out on. The Order, Panic Room 4K, and Constantine 4K. I already pre-ordered that Nosferatu Steelbook. It messaged me saying it shipped last week, so I'm hoping to get it a little bit early, but I can't wait to get that. I'm sure September 5th will be somewhere in a shopping cart for me. Corey, what is your expectation for these movies? Are there any, are you going to go buy The Order? Are you going to go buy Panic Room 4K? Because that hasn't have, a really good, solid Blu-ray or 4K release.
I love Panic Room.
Panic Room is underrated.
So underrated.
Yeah.
It's one of, I won't say it's one of Fincher's best, but, it's super
There's
good
no
movie.
bad Fincher movie. Are you going to disagree with me?
I mean...
What are you going to say?
I'm trying to just go through his movies. No, I don't
the
think
ones
so.
that, if you're this one's bad. Curious Case of Benjamin Button's not for everyone.
That's not bad.
Alien 3 is, I think, the only one you could confidently say.
Yeah, that's what I was only going to say, but,
Okay.
I don't even think that's, a bad movie.
No. Exactly. So,
yeah.
no argument to be had.
But that's what I think about before
You
I
hesitated. You're like, I'm like, no, I'm not having that.
Yeah.
The Killer was good?
Yeah, no, I like the movie. No, Fincher's great. Yeah, so I definitely want that 4K. Nosferatu, I want that Steelbook. I may try and go, Tuesday morning to Walmart and see if they got it, because that'd be sweet. And then, I want September 5th. I've never seen Constantine, so I'm kind of curious about that one.
That was just on FX a lot as a kid, so I just got kind of mind-numbed from that
and
movie.
they're doing another one, I think. They've announced...
I think, potentially. Every time I see, updates like that for a new sequel, I'm like, unless it's, Hollywood Reporter or Deadline saying it, it doesn't count to me.
I'll wait until maybe they do that, and then I'll watch the original one. But yeah, a lot of good stuff this week.
Yeah, maybe this will, invite me to go see Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim on, hopefully whenever that drops on streaming, because I'm lightly interested in that movie, but I never really wanted to see it in theaters. Same with The Order. The Order I heard actually some really great things about, and I was just I flew under my radar, and then by the time I was kind of interested in it, it was out of theaters. So maybe I'll try and catch up on that later on.
Hell yeah. So we are 1 week removed from the Super Bowl, and
thank you, Saquon Barkley.
Thank you, Kendrick Lamar.
Thank you, Jalen Hurts.
K-Dot delivered the best halftime show I've ever seen.
My favorite halftime show I've ever been alive for. I think maybe one of the best in history. Of the ones that I'm I know of, maybe the Prince one beats it out, and I don't even like Prince. But yeah, K-Dot was phenomenal.
That was insane. That was the highlight of the night for me.
Watching the Chiefs get piss pounded by the Eagles.
That was cool too.
Which to me was not a surprise. I think if anyone was surprised by that, what are you watching? The Eagles were so better. They were gonna obviously annihilate them, and for it to go the way it did, for Patty to get fucking shut down. Oh, sorry, I'm a Chargers fan aside from a Vikings fan, so to see the Chiefs crumble a little bit makes me very happy. And then Kendrick playing a great halftime show just for me to go to work and hear a bunch of white people be like, I'm tired of hearing people on Facebook tell me that I didn't get the halftime show. I just didn't like it. It's not. I wish Chris Stapleton would have done it instead. And it's all right, well,
those damn white people.
Yeah, those damn white. Saying it as a white person.
But speaking of white people, Cooper DeJean, pick six, baby.
Oh, that was so good.
Repping for all the white corners out there, baby.
No, him and one other probably.
This is our Jackie Robinson moment right here.
That sealed the deal too. I'm like, this game's done. Game is over.
That was incredible. I love seeing that. Just a kid from Iowa, so that's great.
Anyway,
but yeah, a big part of the Super Bowl, at least it used to be. This year, kind of underwhelming actually. Is a lot of the movie trailers. So I'm not going to talk in depth about really all of these because we've talked, I think, about a lot of these trailers. But some of the little spots that ran either before, during, after the game. Was Thunderbolts, Lilo and Stitch, How to Train Your Dragon, Novocaine, Jurassic World Rebirth, Smurfs, Superman, which had it was during the Puppy Bowl, they had a little teaser, I think, so it wasn't during the game. F1, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, and Megan 2.0. The only one that really caught my attention was the Thunderbolts, just because it was a very new trailer. We got a bunch of new stuff in it. Other than that, it was really...
It was stuff that already dropped.
I think the only thing that was clever was the Lilo and Stitch one where he's fucking around on the field and driving the cart. I'm like, that's kind of fun. That's a cool way to do a Super Bowl trailer, and that's the point of these ones.
And it harkens back to how they originally marketed the animated movie. Lilo Stitch just popped up in fucking everything in terms of marketing and trailers for other movies. And it was just hey, I'm Stitch.
Yeah.
It's all right.
So you're staying true to that, and that one stuck out, I guess. How to Train Your Dragon, they released another full trailer a couple days later. Which,
fuck that movie.
It looks...
It's like the animated movie that I already love, so I don't need to see it.
Yep. Smurfs, that movie can fucking die. I don't...
Influencer Smurf. You're not excited about Influencer Smurf?
you know...
And Gargamel's fucking brother, which
Yeah.
his name escapes me for some weird reason.
Dude, I have no clue. My Smurfs lore knowledge is not...
The first,
high.
okay, the Neil Patrick Harris 2011 Smurfs movie, that worked for me. That shit worked. No, that was the same year as Green Lantern. I was really trying to figure shit out. I remember I used to keep a running list of every movie I saw when I was younger, and I'd put like a grade or out of 10 ranking. And I'm pretty sure I gave Smurfs a 7. I think I gave Green Lantern like an 8. So like,
Oh boy.
I'm a critic.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Roger Ebert be damned. Like, I am here.
Big time. Step aside, Gene Siskel.
Yeah, I am here.
I can't wait to see Megan 2.0 with you.
No.
I was talking with one of... We weren't at the same Super Bowl party, but one of our friends said, she was like, we have to go see that again, because you,
saw
me,
the first
her,
one.
and Allie, your wife, went and saw that together, and she's like, we need to run it back for Megan 2.0.
I do think for this movie, what they did, like, it wasn't a trailer. It was just, like, such a good, like, announcement of, like, bitch, I'm back. Like, it worked so well for what, like, especially with how much each slot costs. Like, if you're going to market your movie and you're going to do a full 30-second ad, you're going to fucking spend,
Her
like,
swinging her arms and the pink lights.
I'm like, you know
whatever.
what, this, you for what they needed to do in terms of announcing this project being back to the people that didn't know that there was going to be a sequel, it worked so well. Like you said, the Thunderbolts thing was the one that was most interesting to me because it was something that we didn't have before really the Super Bowl, and it was something with a lot of new footage. Novocaine having like Super Bowl spots, I was like, really, this movie? And, like, there's just like some odds and ends that I'm like, really? Like F1, I'm not terribly surprised by. The Mission Impossible stuff I'd seen before. How to Train Your Dragon, I'm just not sold on. So
Very surprising, no Fantastic Four spot at all.
yeah.
After the trailer came out like a few days before the Super Bowl, I'm surprised to not see that pop up.
Even just like a extended peek on online now or something like that. Kind of like what a lot of these tend to do now. But aside from the Super Bowl trailers, we also today actually we got a lot of updates as we were coming out of the viewing of Captain America: Brave New World. But the BAFTA awards went on today. I'm not going to list every single one of these, but some of the notable ones: Best Film and Best British Film went to Conclave. Best Director went to Brady Corbet. Best Actor Adrian Brody. Best Actress Mikey Madison. Best Supporting Actor Kieran Culkin, and Best Supporting Actress Zoe Saldana. Corey,
Way to hit that.
I've seen a couple people pronounce it like that, and I'm like, is that the right way? Because if so, I've been saying it wrong, and then damn, I should better course correct hard right now. What's your reaction to some of these? Because some of these are kind of going against the grain of what we've seen, at least from like the DGA and the PGA and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, we talked last week, and Nora was kind of cleaning up.
Yeah.
Critics' Choice, PGA, DGA. So seeing Conclave win, I was happy about that. I would be stoked if that movie won Best Picture. I think it's a little bit more of a dark horse to win. But yeah, I feel like at this point, like Adrian Brody and Kieran Culkin and Zoe Saldana, I feel like fairly confident that they are going to take home the Oscar Gold. Best Actress is the one where I think there's 3 people that could win that very realistically.
Yeah.
And then Director, I think Brady Corbet or Sean Baker. It's kind of a battle there. So another week of being confused by what's going on, which is, again, kind of fun part of this award season. For some movies that I don't care for that much, having it be this unpredictable is kind of enjoyable. So we've got SAG Awards next week, and then it's the Oscars the week after. So I'm still very confused about what's happening.
Yeah. I feel like for me, like once I start paying too much attention to a lot of these awards building up to Oscars, I start to get a little bit more jumbled. Whereas like Oscars is really the only award I care about. I don't care much about these. Like these have more credibility than a Golden Globe, granted, but they're not what I look for in terms of like what measures quality. Like an Oscar, that's just like the sexy thing. Like boom, you're an Oscar winner. Like that's something to me. So I try not to pay too much attention to this, but it is crazy to see like Best Director at the DGA went to Sean Baker. Like all the directors chose Sean Baker, and now it's going to the BAFTA and Brady Corbet. So I'm really excited to, and I'm thrilled to see love for Conclave because I don't think that has the biggest chance in terms of winning the Best Picture Oscar. I wish it would. I wish it was more in that conversation. I just don't think it's gonna make it. When it comes time to the Oscars, it's really just going to be me sitting down when I'm picking my, like filling out my ballot. It's going to be who can I envision on stage accepting each award? And like for Best Actress, and went to Mikey Madison here, I'm like, I still think it might go to Demi Moore. Maybe after the SAG Awards, maybe I'll think a different way. But right now I'm like, I think Demi Moore might still get it. I think right now looking at, in terms of what my picks would be, the BAFTA nailed it on Best Actor nailed it on Best Supporting Actor, and I think they got it on Supporting Actress. I think Director might go to Sean Baker. I think Best Picture might go to The Brutalist. Or Anora, I don't fucking know, but it's really going to come down, like, my picks are going to come down to the day of, when I'm sitting down, you and I have the projector running, a glass of wine in hand, fucking Raising Cane's, which if you're not in a part of the world where there's a Raising Cane's, I'm so sorry. It's the best fried chicken you could find at a fast food place.
Extra Texas toast, extra sauce, no slaw.
No slaw. Ditch that slaw. The slaw is actually, like, not good. Like, if you want good fast food coleslaw, go to KFC. But when it comes time for Oscars and we're sitting down to fill out our ballots, it's just going to be who can I personally envision on stage accepting this award to dictate who I'm picking. But I'm not terribly surprised by these, except for, like, I'm happy to see Conclave get some love. I'm happy to see Brady get some love for director for Brutalist. It's going to be a toss-up for, I think, a lot of these awards, though. Especially once you get into more, like, the technical stuff and, like, visual effects and sound. And I feel like it might be a little bit more like a 3-horse race as opposed to, like, no, this is the one that's going to win.
Yeah. The only reason I kind of take BAFTAs along with, like, the guild groups.
Yeah, guilds are good.
But I think there is a lot of crossover between BAFTA voters and Oscar voters. So that kind of helps play into it a bit of, like, okay, well, how are they leaning in some of these tighter races? So it helps to, in that sense, to predict some of those things. But we'll be covering all this.
2 weeks?
2 weeks. It's so exciting.
Oh my god.
Our favorite day of the year.
Wait.
Yeah, it is very exciting. So we will definitely be back next week talking about SAG and other stuff happening.
Getting ready for the Oscars.
Hell yeah. Another little piece of movie news. A Goonies sequel was announced. No director is attached yet, but Steven Spielberg and Chris Columbus are returning to produce. Lauren Schuler Donner is coming back to executive produce. I love the Goonies. I grew up watching that movie so much, and it's a great adventure movie, and we don't need a sequel to it because I don't need to see, like, Sean Astin and Josh Brolin coming back. I don't know if they are, but that's
what you'd expect with the Goonies sequel, though.
Yeah,
we want to see these characters again.
And with Ke Huy Quan, like, especially having a comeback, like, you gotta imagine he's gonna pop up in there. So I'm not that thrilled about this movie. It's cool that, like, a lot of the OG producers and stuff are coming back, but I don't need this, really.
No, I'm not. I didn't see Goonies until I was in college, and it's hard to, like, really. I don't have, like, a lot of nostalgia for it, like I would for, like, Sandlot or something like that. But it's, like, a fun enough movie. I'm not, like, super attached to it. I feel like the talk of a Goonies sequel has been something that's been going on for fucking ever. So, sure, this could be happening, or we can read in a week that nothing's happening. Like, I'm not going to believe this story until I think I see, like, set images of, like, hey, they're actually, like, fucking filming this. But I don't need a Goonies sequel. It's cool, like you said, that they're bringing back Chris Columbus and Steven Spielberg. I think that with that in line already, like, they're not missing in terms of what they're doing at these early stages of getting this production on the up and up. To have Steven Spielberg and Chris Columbus set in to at least try and hopefully orchestrate and overlook what's going on in terms of story and character, I think that they could help set up this sequel for being at least good to great. I'm not eagerly awaiting it. I'm not gonna likely rush out to see it, and I also don't necessarily know if I believe that this is going to happen until I, like, have something concrete, like a trailer or set images or a firm announcement in terms of casting and stuff like that. But good on them. Fuck it. For the Goonies fans that are like, I need a sequel, fine, here you go. You can watch this maybe. Hopefully they'll bring back some of these characters. An announcement, rather a trailer that really excited me this past week was the trailer for the new A24 air quotations comedy titled Friendship, starring Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. What a bizarre trailer this fucking is. My brother sent this to me and he was like, what are your thoughts on this? And I'm like, I'm super excited. I think it looks so weird. I don't know if it being marketed or kind of said it's going to be a comedy really sits well with me. The film is directed by Andrew DeYoung. It will likely be released sometime this upcoming spring. I've seen things of March and May, but if you go on, like, the A24 website, there's no, like, distinct release date mentioned. So regardless, I think I will likely be seeing this opening weekend. I'm super excited. I think Tim Robinson is fucking hilarious.
He is a funny dude.
Yeah, him. And I think that this trailer cuts it to be very awkward and serious. And I think the movie is gonna play into that, but I think we'll have like actual genuine like good laugh out loud moments. But it does feel like if you're gonna pair the words comedy with the production company of A24, this is what I'd envision, so I'm not surprised by it. Corey, what was your kind of reaction to this Friendship trailer?
I could not get what the tone of this movie is.
It's hard, yeah, it's fucking wild.
I didn't know whether to laugh or be like, is this drama or like what are we doing? And it feels like a sketch or like an SNL, like when they spoof like an A24 movie. It feels like this is what the trailer that they would put out for it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Tim Robinson is super funny, and I think a lot of his sketches are great. But I'm concerned that like it can work well in a few minutes. Is that going to sustain for an hour and a half, 2 hour movie, however long this is? But I mean, I'm curious about it, and it's got my interest. So, I need a release date and kind of determine from there if I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, I think a second trailer is actually gonna help a lot with this, just to kind of sell like what is the tone?
What's going on here?
Because like you'll get like serious tone or serious conversation within this trailer, and then like a flash of like a quotation from a critic, like the best comedy I've ever seen or my favorite comedy. It's like it's not selling me that this is funny. It's selling me that this is kind of uncomfortable. So. Regardless, I'm really excited just because I love Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson, and A24 doesn't really seem to miss a whole lot. I don't know much about Andrew DeYoung. I'm sure he has a back catalog of a couple of films leading up to this one, but I've not looked into too much or heard too much about those. But regardless, I will likely be there opening weekend, whatever weekend that fucking lands on. But anyways, thank you for sitting and having some liquor drinks with us on our 16th episode of Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. I'm really fucking hopeful that you weren't drinking what we were drinking, because sorry, but this was fucking heinous. And I kept sipping on it and just having to smack
Did you finish it all?
No, I have like half a
got a
swallow
little bit.
left. I could finish that, but I don't think I'm gonna. I think that's priority for the sink to take care of. But yeah, Drastic Measures Brewing Co. You're gonna be on a path of redemption here. We're gonna have to try and you're on our list. I'm more like, you know what? We'll try another drink of yours and see if we can kind of redeem you, because this was just fucking ass. But yeah, don't pick up Drippin. If you see it at Total Wine, walk the other way. It's a scary can with scary contents. It's bad. It's green. It's sludgy. And it's bad. It's
Walk up to the woman giving you whiskey samples at the front door.
That's what we did, and we should have stuck with that. We should have just got a
that
bottle
vanilla
of that.
and sign whiskey.
Oh, that was
so good.
Sweet. That was like a Diet Coke. Oh, dude. Anyway, follow us on Instagram for more in-depth movie reviews, or don't. It doesn't matter. Sometimes we'll share movie news. Subscribe to our podcast. That actually does help. That's something that we like to track. In the world of film, it's not just about what happens on screen, but also about who's sitting next to you in the theater and who is sharing a 32-ounce Coors Light with you.
Wish I had a Coors right now.
Yeah.
I had one earlier for Captain America, and that was great.
Shit. Yeah.
Better than this fucking shit. Anyways, for Mason and I, it's Late Night. That's a wrap.